guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Wayne and this is a series called Light in Law, where we basically simplify complex law concepts. You've already seen the title of this video. We're going to be talking about writing your project topic, writing your project, not just project topic, honestly, today. And I'm not just going to be doing it alone. Zinelli is here to do it with us, so let us celebrate Zinelli, you guys.
Hi guys, so good to be back on Light in Law again with the prof.
I beg. So yeah, you guys, today we're going to just get right into it. We're going to be talking about final year project writing. Yeah. So as law graduates and aspirants to the bar, we are qualified to give you this information, or maybe not. But anyway, you're good. Yeah, you're good. Nelly had an A in her projects, and we have a copy of that project here. So if you want to share them project, yes. Don't ask me what it does. But anyways, yes, we're going to be talking about projects today, and we're going to just delve right into it. The first thing we're going to be talking about is choosing your project topic.
Yeah.
Because you cannot write project if you don't have project topic. So what's the first thing you say we need to keep in mind when choosing a project topic?
Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, first thing to keep in mind is your interest in law. Because we are primarily about law students into those areas of law that you have a big interest in. At least you have some sort of interest in. So whether that is intellectual property, international law,
Commercial law,
criminal law, whatever it is, you have to know, okay, this area of law is what I would like to write on. Because mind you, we're going to write about almost 100 pages.
Yeah, so you don't want to write something that
you don't really like. Yes. You have to know that, okay, this is something I can commit to in writing a project.
Very important. As she said, you're going to be writing a lot of pages. Like, I remember writing my own project. I was like, bro, how many times did I write consent? Because my project topic was on public international law, I had to do consent. And almost every single page, like, you will keep, it's not like you're saying the same thing, but you're talking about the same thing.
Central subject.
Yeah, so if you're one of those people that, let's say, everybody in your class, they're writing intellectual property, and you don't even like intellectual property like that, you now go and say, oh, let me go and do intellectual property, you're going to be frustrated and
most likely get stuck.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, like, have a passion, have a desire, have an interest, pick interest, as she said, in whatever project topic that you choose to write. So that's the first one. The second one would be looking for a gap. In law, we'll say lacuna, right? Looking for a gap in the law. So let your project topic not be redundant. Everybody's writing about human rights. No offense to people that write about human rights, but it's really an overflux area.
Yes.
I mean, there are different ways that you can come about writing human rights. Maybe you want to look at this from international statutes. Maybe you want to say, oh, what does the African Charter provide for? Maybe you want to all of that. But make sure that you need to, first of all, identify a gap, a problem, and then address that problem. So, for example, for intellectual property, right, let's say geographical indications, there's no act, there's no legal framework in Nigeria right now for geographical indications. So if your project topic is like maybe looking for how to create a legal framework for geographical indications in Nigeria, you have successfully highlighted a problem, a gap, and fill the gap with your project topic. So when they say fill the gap, that's essentially what they are talking about, so that you don't have like redundant topics. Everybody is writing about ACTA, everybody is writing about the same things over and over again. What's the point? Because the third requirement for project topic is that you should add the existing body of knowledge back. So it's kind of connected, because when you develop, when you see the gap, that's when you know what to add
a fresh new perspective.
Exactly. So that you'll be able to add to the body of knowledge and not just add things that's already basically. Yeah, so that's essentially like 3 things that you should keep in mind when you are choosing a project topic. And then for how your project topic is supposed to be framed, it differs, right? In schools, it differs. But before we even go into now talk about like actually writing your project topic, we must know about NALT.
Yes, we must know about NALT.
Yes.
If you're a law student, you most likely know about NALT.
Yes, you want to tell us like a bit about what NALT is?
Sure. So NALT, is Nigerian Association of Law
Teachers. It's a guide, basically.
It's essentially a guide for people in the legal profession, legal academic profession, where you see how to cite academic materials, you see how to incorporates basically academic material when you're writing a project or when you're writing a dissertation, whether it's an LLM, whether it's a PhD in law, whatever it is. So it's just like a summary of everything you need to know about writing legally.
Yeah, basically. And even for your chapterizations, right, as you said, they give you clear cuts what your chapter 1 is supposed to be, what your chapter 2 is supposed to be, to your chapter 5.
Yeah.
So it's like a template. Yeah.
Yes.
It gives you a proper template of what your project should look like.
And what's expected from you.
Exactly. So basically, what we're going to be talking out of NALT today, and you know that this is bits and pieces. This video is not enough for you to just say, okay, I'm now ready to start my. It's supposed to give you, it's supposed to be a pointer, it's supposed to be a sign for you to know where to
Where to
go.
start.
Yeah. So from when you watch this video, definitely go back, download the NALT. I think it's everywhere on the internet, or there's even a book. There's a small blue book. Yeah, there's a small blue book. Yeah, that you can just see every single thing that we're going to be talking about today. Right, to go right into it, right, and start to talk about what your chapter 1 is supposed to look like. Yeah. So for your chapter 1, the first thing you have to do is the background of the study.
Yes.
Right. So essentially, what this means is you have to do research.
Yeah.
If you're not ready to do research, don't write projects. That's just it. You need to do research before, research during, research after. Like you're just going to immerse yourself in the world of books, library, and materials.
I mean, that's why it's called legal research.
Research, literally. So if you're one of those people that are paying people to write your projects for you, bombastic side eye. Yeah. So essentially, the background of the study is you basically telling us. So what's the build up?
Yeah.
Right.
What led to here?
What led to here? So if you are talking about human rights, the preservation of human rights, for example, in Nigeria, you need to tell us how there hasn't been upholding human rights. Maybe talk about like world wars, talk about the civil war, like just give a background to the reason why you're writing this topic.
Yes.
Yeah. Next one is the statement of the problem or research questions.
Okay, so on this, the problem in this case would be the gap you're trying to fill.
Yeah.
So the gap you're trying to fill is the reason why you're writing this project. So you stating the problem is like the whole essence, is what your project is banking on.
Yeah.
Right? So the statement of problem is also followed by your research questions. And your research questions are very, very important because they are like your guide as to what you're going to be building on your chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You can give an example.
Okay, so let's say you're writing on, let's say the Nigerian film industry, for example, and let's say they lack intellectual property protection concerning the film. So you say a statement of problem is like, what is the state of the Nigerian film industry in that, like currently, and then you now go on to build from there to highlight what your problem is. If you're highlighting whether that the films don't receive that much copyright protection, you have to highlight in your statements, your research questions rather, so that you know how you're going to go from chapter 1 to chapter 5.
Exactly. And then next you do is your aim and objectives, right? So what is the aim? What is the space that your project is securing and covering or whatever? So what is the aim, right? And then what are your objectives? When we look at your project, what exactly, like it has to be okay, these are some of the things that my project is going to solve, or my project is going to answer. So as we said again, they are really against like redundancy, right? Just saying the same thing. So avoid any project topic that is overflocked.
Yeah. Avoid any area of law that is overflocked. Like she said already,
human rights.
I mean, definitely if
you can enter from another perspective,
yes, by all means do that. But if it's the basic analyzing ANJA 2015,
how about 2015?
Come on, you know. So
yeah.
Please just try and think outside of the box.
Yeah.
They want you to, like, law is very vast. You can find problems in every nook and cranny. So don't just take it easy routes.
Yeah, and also don't limit yourself by saying like, oh, they've already written everything. But once you already have that mind, you will not find what to write. But if you have, as she said, an open mind, like, okay, let me look deeply into this thing. It could be a redundant topic, but you come through another lens, you come through another perspective, and you find yourself with fresh problem question. So yeah, next is the scope and limitations.
Okay, so as the name implies, if you're writing about, again, the Nigerian film industry, you have to write within the confines of the
Nigeria. You have to just say film industry. Like French films, Italy, like you have to cover all of that.
Yes, you have to actually know where your work is going to be.
On top level.
Exactly. And then your limitations, that's just like what is, for example, limitations, let's say some of our cases are not, let's say, publicized.
Yes,
Maybe some cases
yes.
are private. That's a limitation because you don't have access to it.
Especially if you're writing
Yeah.
about ADR, yes. If you're writing about alternative dispute resolution, where, as she's explaining, there's no public
Record.
case, there's no public record of like people's ADR. So you can say, oh, in writing my project, this was a limitation. So that's scope and limitation. The next one is the significance of the study. Remember that this is still in chapter 1.
Yes. I think there are like 7 subtitles.
Yes, just in chapter 1. So significance of the study, what's that about?
So again, as the name implies, why is your project? What's
the
what's it going to do for us?
Yeah.
What's it going to add to the body of knowledge? What's it going to add to the legal profession for most students? What's the significance? What's the importance? What's the core of the matter? Like, what are you trying to tell us? Like, if you can break that down for us in the significance of the study, then you've done a good job.
The next one is the research methodology. So if you did legal research and writing, you know that they spoke a lot about methodology, right? The kind of methodology that you basically use to write your project. So it depends on also the kind of project that you're writing, right? There are some that are doctrinal and non-doctrinal. So you know from the kind of project that I wrote, this is the kind of methodology that you use. So which methodology did you use for your project?
I use non-doctrinal. I believe that's the armchair.
Yes, where you just analyze different documents. It's not field research.
Yes, I didn't have to do surveys.
We didn't do surveys. We barely.
I think that's we basically mainly do non-doctrinal.
Yes,
but if
like
it's
sociology or all of this,
they go into the field.
They will do survey. They will be sharing paper everywhere in their school.
I mean, which is exciting.
Yes. Which is Google Forms. Please fill this Google form. Please forward this Google Forms. So you didn't have to do that, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's another type of research methodology. So whichever one suits your project topic, go for it.
Go for it. Last but not least, in chapter 1 is the chapter analysis. This is a chapter breakdown.
Yes.
Chapter breakdown of chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, all the way to chapter 5. And just you highlighting like what exactly is in those chapters. So they would say obviously like write your chapter analysis after you're done with your whole project. Because yes, it's after you're done. It's after you're done that you're supposed to meet. It's after you're done that you're supposed to know like okay, this is in chapter 1.
Okay, I get it.
But I feel like it also helps you to build like a skeletal for you to know okay, this is what I'm going to write in my chapter 5. Just so that your supervisor can have understanding of what your project is about, and it also gives you the so you're not just writing with things, you're writing with a schedule or a mode in mind. Alright, so you guys, that's chapter 1. As we said earlier, go to NALT. You don't have to like cram it, like literally get NALT beside you when you're writing your project so that you're just looking at it. It's no exam. So now we're going to move to chapter 2.
Okay, so in chapter 2 we have conceptual clarifications, theoretical frameworks, historical foundation, and literature review. So now for chapter 2, I would like to highlight that listen to what your project supervisor says. Because my mates, we had different opinions exactly from our supervisor. So my supervisor said I should limit it to these 4: conceptual, theoretical, historical, and literature review. So what are conceptual clarifications?
So conceptual clarifications are just like some of the words that you're going to be using in your project topic. You need to actually define what they mean. For example, this is the best example I can give ever. So my project, since it was on public international law, I wrote on the concept of consent, and I had to explain what consent means in the context of public international law. Because if you hear consent, the first thing in law that's coming to your mind is criminal law, rape. But that's not what my topic was about. My topic was more on the sovereignty of states to be able to allow, to give consent, right, for international law to be binding on them. But when you hear consent in rape, it's basically like a grown man and a grown woman giving consent to when there's no consent and then it's rape. So in conceptual clarifications, you need to clarify those terms. So if you're writing on contract law, what is a contract? What is it this? What is it that? You need to go into every single word that you're going to be using. You're going to now like give the definitions based on like scholarly articles, based on Black Laws Dictionary. Like you're just going to define those words to clarify, so that going forward, when your supervisor says consent, you'll not be thinking, what are we talking about? You've already clarified consent and in the context.
So it's just within the scope of your topic. So theoretical frameworks. These are just theories jurisprudential theories that your work is going to be based on. So, for example, for IP, we talk a lot about reward theory. So that theory just says, okay, let's do this. Fairly new. But anyway, for example, IP, like I said before, we talk about reward theory. It's also utilitarian theory. There are various theories that you can use your work on. So again, based on what your project topic is talking about, you need to find a theory that it comes from or is derived from, or you can stand on based on jurisprudence.
Yes. And this theory, they told us in year 1, in legal method, and then year 5 in jurisprudence. So open your ear wide. When they're talking about theory, don't tell me I don't like this. You see it when you're writing your project.
You need to see that, you need to understand it.
And it's fun, so don't even. The next one.
The next one is historical foundation.
Historical foundation. Listen that one. It's the background today.
Yeah.
Okay. So Zinelli will now explain historical foundations.
Okay. It's as the name implies.
As the name implies.
I know. I know you know. Historical foundations. I mean, it's just, again, I'll use my own project topic. So if we're talking about the Nigerian film industry, how did film start in Nigeria? We're talking about
public international law. How did it start?
How did it start? Basically, all of that. So
just giving them a background of the particular concept that you're talking about how it started.
Yes. So we're talking about, like, let's say for example, copyright in the Nigerian film industry. How did copyright start in Nigeria? Like, how did it start essentially? What's the historical background and everything? How did film enter? How are we now? That kind of thing. Just giving a succinct background to your whole topic. Literature review. Literature
review is basically where you go and consult the works of authorities. Yes, previous people that have written, but then authorities don't just go and say, according to this is people that scholars, erudite professors and scholars that have written about your concept. And then what you do is that you consult their work. Your supervisor can tell you 15, some can tell you 50, they can tell you 100, like that. You should just go and see what other people have done so that you understand like how you're ahead. So you can now pick like maybe say 7, 10 and then just give like a brief, in this person's work, this is what they did. However, you can also say they missed out on this, but make sure you say it with respect, because I remember one of my literature review I did. I was like, the person failed to to cover this area. Did they not see that? But my own project. My supervisor said, who are you? Say, what authority are you? I said, sir, remove this. Even if you want to put it like, you have to put it nicely, respectfully, like,
you need to look at professional.
I'm telling you, like, don't start for a company. So it was like, put like they did this, but additionally, like just make it, don't insult any erudite professor and like with your LLB that they're not even giving you yet. Please, so that's what literature review is, and that's the end. Right?
That's the end.
That's the end of chapter 2. So now we're going to be going to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is the legal and institutional frameworks. Right. So this, Zinelli, what is this?
Winnie, what is this?
So this it's just basically like the frameworks. So for example, let me give you an example. Some of these things, they're very hard for you to like explain them, but if we give examples, you understand. If your topic is on intellectual property rights, and the legal framework will be the statutes. So the intellectual, maybe trademark law or patent, it will be the statute. That's the legal framework. The institutional framework will be the agencies or the commissions. So the Nigerian Copyright Commission, WIPO, all the both international and domestic. So that's basically legal framework and institutional framework.
Yeah, exactly as she said. So in this chapter, you have to break down domestic, international, legal framework, and then domestic and international institutional framework. So as I said, with IP, it's copyright,
intellectual property organization, NCC, Nigerian Copyright Commission. Basically, yes. Legal Framework Acts.
Yes, legal framework. acts.
Yeah.
Acts, yes.
Yeah.
So there was the domestic and then the international.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wrote on
Corporate.
international frameworks and then domestic
Yes,
frameworks
yes.
as well. Basically, Shikina.
Did you as well?
Yeah, I wrote on international frameworks and I wrote on domestic frameworks too, because even if it's an international law, they still have to domesticate it.
And that's
what
constitution,
is
right?
constitution? Yes. Basically.
Smart girl.
Yes. Chapter 4.
Oh, already here.
This is the meat.
the mix.
Chapter 4 is your entire project. So then again, everything is the entire project. But chapter 4 is more a lot. Like
Meat.
plenty talk here.
I think in chapter 4, it's where a lot of you will
Yes, will now
express.
enter.
Yes, because chapters 1 to 3 is more of like pulling.
That's why it's research.
Hmm.
Yeah, you know, in research, you're not really coming up with your own stuff. You're looking at what other people have done. You're researching.
True.
Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like recycling. Okay.
Chapter 4.
So chapter 4, as I said before, it's a lot of you that's going to be expressed in the chapter because in this chapter you're going to be telling us, like you're going to be analyzing.
Yeah.
Depending on your project though, because mine was an analysis, you're going to be analyzing whether it's challenges, prospects.
Yeah.
What was your
So if you do comparative analysis,
Yeah.
you're going to now put them side by side. So if you say like, let's say comparative analysis on the law, the insurance law in UK and insurance law in Nigeria, you will now put it side by side and now talk about it. Yeah.
And then see what you're trying to pull. Maybe you're trying to say, okay, this part of UK's insurance law is a good provision, and I think
It should be, they should apply it to their
Exactly.
Or you do challenges and prospects. Yeah,
Challenges
which
and
is what you did.
which is what
So
I did.
a lot of like 4 challenges and then 4 prospects, which is
No,
like
depending on you though.
depending on how your project is.
Yes,
and
if it's very
supervisor.
and listen to your supervisor. So if your project is very bulky, you can. And then again, you know you have a word limit. So just be mindful of that because you may need to cut down if you write a lot. But generally, you can just do like maybe 4 to 6, maybe 5. Just 5. You can do
Meet in
5.
the middle.
You meet in the middle. Like do what works for you. Do what works for you.
Do what your supervisor says you should do.
And do what works for you.
Basically, that's what chapter 4 is about. And
Yep.
then, last but not the least, last and the least, chapter 5. Okay, it's not the least. Last, chapter 5.
It's really honestly chapter 5 was really a breeze. Like,
Yeah.
I think I was still like how many minutes?
Yeah, it's not crazy.
It's not.
Yeah. The first thing you need to do is summary of findings,
Yeah.
which is just basically a summary of your findings. Like, what else do you want
What
to
did you
say?
find while researching?
Summarize it and write it.
Again.
Recommendations.
Yes. So recommendations. You know how we said earlier that when you're writing your project topic, you have to add to the body of existing knowledge.
Yes, ma'am.
So you just have to sit down and realize what are you like. You say, okay, we don't upload it. So what are you recommending? What are you bringing to the table, essentially?
Exactly.
So what are you going to say? What are your innovations? What are you saying should be adopted? Because I think law students should, everyone in general, take your project very seriously. It's not just a piece of paper. Like in the future, if you go on, you can actually institutionalize this. You can bring this to the table and be like, okay, I wrote this down. I know someone that wrote on implementing a statute, I think, for trade secrets, formal trade secrets.
Yes.
And I feel like that was such a brilliant
Shout out to
Phoebe.
Yes.
Yes, because I feel like that was such a brilliant topic. Because in the future, near future, she can say, okay, let's get to work. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
I have something on trade secrets.
I have some
research work on trade secrets, not
Much
just some
research work on that. So these are your recommendations. You're meant to say, okay, these are the things I'm recommending. These are the innovations that I'm tabling down here that I think would be necessary in this regard. And then last but not the least, again, conclusion.
Yeah. Basically, so recommendations, also contributions of knowledge is there too.
Okay, yes.
So contributions of knowledge, just as the same
Same
thing as
thing.
recommendations, and then areas for further research.
Yes.
Because you also have to acknowledge the fact that
You don't know.
the same way you were there saying somebody failed to, somebody can read your own work and say you failed to. So how would that make you feel? So basically, contributions for like further research.
Yeah.
So you can tell them, okay, go ahead and read these acts, go ahead and look at these documents with this.
Yes.
Just to give them a more like succinct explanation of what you've already written.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you conclude and pens down, you're done with your project. Was that so hard?
Easy peasy,
Lemon squeezy. Was it so hard? Like that's it. Like
Okay.
you actually written projects.
Yeah. Then bibliography, citation. You know, all these things over time you get better at them.
For real.
You
Yeah.
really do. So yeah. So you may think, oh, citing is so hard.
Oh, that's true. Citation.
Yes.
So for citation, consult your NALT guide to teach you how to really cite.
Yes.
Because it's different for various schools and also various courses. For law, as we said, it's called the NALT guide. It's
Yes.
the same thing, but they'll tell you like whether author's name, whether comma, if you're citing journal, if you're citing textbook, if you're citing constitution,
Magazine.
like magazines, every periodicals, like they
Lecture
tell you
notes.
how to cite it.
Yes.
And that's how you're supposed to cite it. That's just it. So you just look at your NALT guide for more
And ask questions, ask your questions.
yes, ask a lot of questions. Another thing I want to even talk about is like one thing that people that are writing project they fail to understand is having a good relationship with your supervisor. Number one, be respectful.
Yes.
Because I don't understand how you don't have LLB and this person probably has more than an LLB and they're telling you to do something and you're like not doing it. Why?
Because you know more. It is.
Because you think you know more, or
Yeah.
this other lecturer is telling their own, you know, maybe it's like this other smart lecturer is telling their own supervisees, that was what to do. Then you now want to say, I want to do that one. When the supervisor is telling you, don't do that
They're
one,
going to grade you.
It's them that will grade you. So, and that one is
That
keeping
has
to time.
ears.
He that has ears, let him hear. Keeping to time. If your supervisor says bring this thing on Tuesday, don't give them excuses. Look, more often than not, right? You're writing your project and you're doing schoolwork at the same time.
Yeah.
So this is not the time to slack.
It's not.
Like 500 level is not the time to be a weirdo. It's not the time for you to say
I'm
do it
almost done.
later. Yeah, like
Finally.
it's not. See, and any school that you are in, they're supposed to even relieve you of some kind of duty so that you can concentrate. For school now, in 500 level, they most likely will tell you clinic is
Like you
okay
start handling the process of handling
to other people so that you
Yes.
can have strength and space in your head to do what you're supposed to do, because research is really tasking.
Yeah, because some people be like, okay, it is possible, yes, to do all of that and still do this, but your brain, you need to really like let your brain
Yeah, and
rest.
what are you trying to put the point that you're superwoman or superman?
It's not like it's not like competition.
It's really not. Yeah. So please keep to time. Anything, and then another one is do what your supervisor said you should do. I know that we've said it before,
Time and
but
time
I'll
again.
just emphasize
Yes,
it. Like actually do what they ask you to do.
Take note of what they say.
Yeah. So discipline, like your personal, do I say personal? Start early.
Yes, start early. I think for us, we started with trying to get our project topics like draft
They said draft 3 and then you submit for them to approve.
So when they say go and pick up your topic, because sometimes you feel like, oh, you didn't draft it well, go and bring more.
Yes, it can actually take 2-3 weeks.
It can before you can get a project topic. Some people actually start projects and midway they have to start again because their project topic doesn't really make sense.
Yes.
Because not enough time and effort and thought was put into it. So please, you have to start early, as she said.
Yes, get a project folder.
Yeah.
Right, essentially either an e-folder or like a physical. I had a physical folder. For the electronic thing is that
Yes.
I needed. They were like my friend just put everything in a folder. So get a folder. Like make sure you arrange everything there. So every time you want to do project, all you have to do is click on that folder, and then you know that this is what I'm working with. Also a physical folder too, because yes, your supervisor will tell you go and print it out.
Yes,
Most
some
time.
supervisors
Some
tell you to
supervisors,
print.
yes.
Some say email it.
Email it. We were getting print. So I got print. And it was nice. Yeah, it was actually
I actually
nice.
like seeing it.
Me too. Like actually, okay, I'm my work. Like I'm doing my work. Yeah. And then I still have it now, so I'll show my kids that come and see, you know.
This LLB is defendable.
So please get a physical folder just so that everything is arranged, and then you know how, if you want to consult anything, you can easily go there.
Yes, yes. And also, I think it's a really good idea because when you print out, you know, you're staring at your laptop, desktop, whatever, for a really long time. So when you print it out, you're like, okay, let me read it. Like, no blue lights is disrupting your eyesight. So if you're reading through it and you're like, okay, this is a mistake, marking it, so that next time you go to your laptop, you can just read it.
Exactly. What do you have to, the next one is get an accountability partner. What would you have to say concerning that?
So I think getting an accountability
because you have one
idea. Yeah, I did have one. Yeah, I actually did have one because after class,
you're accountable.
Yeah, essentially, like, okay, where are you at? Where are you at? And
library.
After class, because again we do coursework while doing projects.
Yeah.
So after classes, like, you know, library.
You know where it is.
You know where it is. That whole semester was just making sure because now the glory of God, we're able to both go over the mark.
Exactly. Praise God.
Yeah.
And then something that I was able to do with some of my classmates was something called concentration room.
Okay,
so every weekend you come with your laptop, I'll collect their phones by the door, and then we'll sit down like round with our laptop. Because you know how you see somebody's in like chapter 3 and you're in chapter 2. Your hand will move fast, just like healthy sporing into more
action.
Yes, into action. So that's also good. Don't do Lone Ranger. You're not
because when you're discouraged, when you're like, oh my God, this project wants to choke me.
Yes.
Who's going to
help you? Like, who's going to say, I do it? You feel like you're a boss.
You feel like
guy because there's nobody over your shoulder.
Yes, and I also think a good idea is to have someone who has gone ahead of you. Have someone who has gone ahead and has done it. Like, shout out to Chidi.
Shout out to Zinelli.
Yeah, because now she really helped my hand. The questions I had, okay, this. Yeah, like having someone who has seen that, okay, this is it's possible. People have done it. Why can't I? Pictures of possibility. Why can't I do it? People did it while doing the public
and they still got
they still passed and they still got their certificates. So yes, having people who have gone ahead of you is a really good way of encouragement.
Absolutely. And then if Rose was here and not behind the camera, she'll say everybody should eat properly.
Yes. Please eat.
See, like
rest.
Yeah, because most of them you're going to be writing into the night.
Yes.
Right. Please.
Waking up early
and then writing into the night. Waking up early, writing into the night. So get snacks. Drink water. Hey, bro, it's pointing at that. So please, like honestly, like make sure you actually eat properly.
Yes.
Buy snacks. Don't be doing this one that you eat once a day. I mean, if condition, and that's okay. But if you have the money to eat, like don't stop yourself, please.
There's a balance.
We're saying like your brain needs those.
You need fuel,
so that you're able to.
Also, if you're someone like me or everyone, like if you need blue light glasses, please invest.
Yes, absolutely.
If you can, I still have mine till today,
Same.
and I think it was a really good idea because you're going to be
staring at your screen for like extended
hours. Like seriously speaking, you need good glasses that can help to protect your eyes. And I'm sure that Instagram now will be showing blue light glasses.
Just look for one and buy.
If you can buy like just to keep it.
Yeah, take care of yourself throughout the whole writing process. Throughout
because it comes to an end. Yes.
It will end though. It will end. And as we're even talking about end, like let's even talk about defense. Because defense is like the end of everything. You submitted your 3 copies, you've done every other thing, and then now you're about to go into defense. What is defense? It's just basically where you defend your project. There's really a would I call it like a pandemic, an epidemic going on of fear, right? And also of like people writing projects for like people like let me write a project for you. But
let's talk about that.
Let's actually talk about that. You're going to have to defend that project. If you're not the one that wrote it, how are you going to defend it?
Like let's think about that.
So in steps for preparing for defense, the first thing we'll say is write your projects yourself.
To yourself. Please very important because they can ask you questions from anywhere. We're not trying to instill fear, but we're trying to tell you that it has your name on it. It's your degree. Write your project yourself.
Yours.
Finish well.
You were scored for 100.
school fees. No, I think it's
Just write it
true.
yourself. You can actually do it.
I think
Because people that want to write your project,
they can't do it.
You cannot do it though. You
Have
like
you heard
why can't you
that
do it?
lecturer? Or if you can't, if you get different advice, oh,
You fail.
who
All
says
these
so?
things are
When
lies.
God did not say it.
Exactly.
No,
Then you're
please.
just looking for people to come and camp with him. You
Yeah.
can actually write your project
You can
by
write your
yourself
projects.
and have a good score. I mean, Zinelli had an A in her project, and I almost had an A with like 2 marks. So and we wrote. I had an A in your eyes. I wish saying that the same eyes.
Please trespass.
But at the end of the day, like it's the same. There's this. It's not pride, but there's this dignity. I can stand anywhere and say I wrote my project by myself. I mean, it's been how many months now? We remember our project topics. We can relate to them because we wrote it
just
by
go through and
ourselves.
okay,
This
yeah.
is what I wrote.
Yeah.
And also, there are some very, very interesting and smart lecturers that will ask you something between the lines.
Yep.
That if you're not the one that wrote it,
They'll catch you.
there'll be a cut. There'll be a cut.
Please, oh yeah,
The one of the
they will catch you.
For real. But so now, after you've written your project by yourself, now you can rest assured that okay, anything they want to ask you is your hand that wrote it.
Yeah.
Next up, dress properly.
Yes, please.
For Lord, they need you to be fit and proper.
Proper.
So make sure that you're like wear skirts, wear
Below your knee.
like
Please.
your blazer. Make sure you wear a blazer. For our school, like
Yeah.
I don't know your own school, maybe you wear like an official dress, but ensure that you keep with the dress code of conduct.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is not the time to do makeup. Like it's the time to do makeup. Let me explain. Do your makeup, but let it not be too shouty, because somebody in the panel may just have a problem with your lashes.
Yes, please. Please,
You know that this
can
law,
this law is a sober profession. So at the point where you're just trying to get over the line, that's not where you're.
It's not the time for your nails. It's not the time for you to show like we mean like green nails. Like
Yes.
you can have like cute like French tips going on for you and all of that. Like,
Yes.
but bro, don't like this. Let them just know that. Sir, please, this took me. Yeah. Then you go and they'll be like, you didn't write your project by yourself. I'm looking too fresh.
Those are very ready, but you
Be
get the
modest.
point.
Everything should be moderate. If you do
That's the
makeup, clean makeup.
Clean makeup.
Yes. If
Clean
you have
girl
your,
makeup.
exactly. If you have your nails on, nice nails.
Nice nails.
Alright.
I'm sure you understand.
Yeah. Be audible when you're speaking. Let them not
Yes.
say, speak up. Don't you know you're a lawyer?
Yeah.
What do you,
At the day of defense?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
please.
And so that's why like prayers must go ahead.
Yes.
Because
Please,
there's a way that you can be so sure in yourself and you go there and forget
For long.
every single thing.
Yeah.
But when you just say, Lord, you've not given me a spirit of fear, but of power and of sound mind. As I speak today, you know, my defense was a breeze. Like before we started, we were talking about it today. My lecturer was saying, "Oh, you've grown up so well." I was just there like, just ask me a couple, defense. Just ask me a couple of questions and some corrections, and that was it. But there are some people that came out crying.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that them they didn't pay or anything, but just ensure that you go correct.
Yes, you've done everything you can do.
Stand. That's scripture. After standing there for stand, you know. So be audible, ensure that you know what you're saying. You know what will cause you to not be audible when you don't write your project by yourself. Because when they ask you something,
Thank you very
don't
much
say,
for that question.
thank you very much for that question. So you don't even have what to say. Bro, write your project by yourself. So the audible is very important. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. And I think that, you know how they say fear is not the absence of not feeling fear, but it's just choosing to be courageous.
Yeah, doing it afraid.
Doing it afraid.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't be afraid, but don't. I think it's more, don't let the fear hold you down.
Yes.
Don't let the fear hold you down, because I mean, come on, the spirit of the Lord is inside of you.
Yes.
So why would you be afraid? Like, stand there, they are men. What can men do to you? Just stand and you should just answer a question.
Yeah. It's not that deep.
You will say that because we've done it, we can say it's not that deep. But at the end of the day,
It's not that deep. Another thing is that ever since 100 level, they've been giving you, at least the way I see it, they give us opportunities to, I mean, presentation was every other week.
Yeah.
We're presenting, so if you're one of those, see, do you know that
Mock
like,
trials,
things will just catch up on you. If you're a person that used to avoid doing work. You know those people in groups that will avoid doing the work, and when it's time to present, they will not come that day. That's the day they will be sick,
or they will
or something would happen miraculously. No wahala. Doing defense, that is now your own personal project.
It's like standing before God.
You stand before God. The discipline that you did not allow yourself to build since your 100 level. The presentation skills that you did not allow yourself to build since your 100 level. To lead.
Give up opening remark.
You see,
most of
all these things will catch up. So please don't just be a student that is book. Like, also open up yourself to extracurriculars, because they help you with planning, reading, public speaking, and all of that. And the last but not the least, I will say, is be polite. When they ask you a question, even if you wrote your project yourself, even if you're audible, in fact, there's even, you can be audible but you're arrogant. Do you understand?
Yeah, your tone
is like you want to fight everybody. Your supervisor will say, did you write your project by yourself?
Yes, I wrote it.
Yes, I did.
What did you take?
Why won't I run? Easy. Calm down. Easy. Like, just, yes sir, I wrote my project myself. Yes sir, yes ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. When they give you, they are trying to correct you, not for you to come and say this other person's supervisor, that's not what they said. Where when they give you, even if you're right, like Mr. Kenna always teach us this thing, like when he's correcting you, first take the correction before you want to even add any other thing. They're telling you, okay, your chapter 1 was okay, but this should have come before this. Now say, in the NALT guide, that's not how it's written. You say, thank you very much, sir. Noted. Also, I have a question. Because when they finish the whole defense thing, you can actually talk to them. Oh, the NALT guide says this. Would it be okay if I left it this way? Can I check back with my supervisor, or should I? When somebody that sees that you're just asking them,
just want to know.
They will not, I think, mad that they will not come and like bite your head off or anything. But if you're like, that's not what that you're being arrogant to fellow lawyers that are actual lawyers, that you're an LLB, almost LLB holder. Please, easy. There's no other thing to say. There's no other thing to say, like, honestly, easy. There's something that I know that you thought we were going to forget to say in this video. We will not forget. Plagiarism. Plagiarism.
Please don't use ChatGPT to write your project. I beg.
ChatGPT, imagine you're a 500 level law student in Nigeria writing on easy.
Please, this internet age and AI that is taking over. Please
use it for help. When you tell it to write your project for you,
because AI is a tool.
Remember,
it doesn't own you. AI is a tool.
Absolutely.
You use it for what you want, but you don't give it your work to you.
Outsource your work to AI.
It's like exactly. Outsource. You didn't write that project.
You did not.
Whether man or whether AI.
You're busy to add mouth to let's write a project by yourself, but it's the robots that wrote your own project, not you that wrote
inside
it.
Yes.
Exactly. You're still in the same soup. But honestly, as she said, AI is a tool, right? Don't come and collect every single thing. Even if you're to paraphrase, because I mean, it's research, right? You're not really coming up with stuff from the sky. Paraphrase properly. Don't use paraphrasing as an excuse to now do more dirty work under the hand things. Like use it to a good amount, to a considerable amount. For us, we have Turnitin. So Turnitin is a tool that tells you how much you've plagiarized. So every single one of our projects had to go through Turnitin, and you had to put your Turnitin report.
We had a limit.
And we had a limit, exactly. I think it was 30%. You cannot go over like 30% plagiarism. So ensure that even if your school does not have that limit, be a person of integrity and ensure that I'm not going to plagiarize any other person's work. Imagine the sweat and tears and maybe blood that somebody took to write the academic paper, and then you just use like out of their work and you don't give them any form of acknowledgement or credit. That's actually stealing. Plagiarism is actually stealing. So be very careful, like, to not do that.
It's a really big thing in the academia.
Yes, so extremely. There are a lot of cases that we have heard about, like, oh, this principal. I'm not even going to call some of the cases, like this principal, this person was caught plagiarizing this, like that, and people just get in very like crazy mix. So that shouldn't be you. Yeah. So essentially, we've gone to the end of this video. I think we've covered everything. We've spoken to you about choosing your project topic. We went into chapterization from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 5. We spoke about relationship with your supervisor, getting materials. For materials, go to the library, go to internet.
There are various sites. Try to SSRN
academia. What's that place called?
There's one that's called SSRN, social something network.
Okay, for to get materials.
Oh,
super.
yes.
So there are a lot of them actually. There's academia as well, Google Scholar as well.
Yes,
so
yes,
yeah,
yes.
even LinkedIn. Some people have put their papers on
Very
LinkedIn.
well.
So
LinkedIn.
just anywhere you get your
People just write
materials.
and post.
Yeah. The end point is make sure you cite.
Yes.
Make sure you give credit to whom credit is due. That's it. So yeah, that's the end of this video. We hope that you've taken a thing or two out of here. Let us know in the comment section if you enjoyed this video, and then let us also know like questions if you have any questions and the rest. So absolutely, like Zinali, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying and being here. Thank you, Rose, behind the camera, for shooting our video. And thank you too for staying to the end. No gatekeeping. Share this to someone that is writing projects. Please don't be a weirdo. Because people are
don't be a
weird. They will not watch it alone. They will not send to their class group chats. So send it to your class group chats. Don't be that person. See you in the next video. Bye.